we've talked about Transformers, we've talked about your work on G.I. Joe, now working on Power Rangers and how you're coming into the series, not having watched it originally. Can you talk about the process that you went through to familiarize yourself with the show?
It really came down to watching the show. I can do all the research in the world on Wikipedia, TV.com, and I can go to the Ranger Board fans and the Ranger Crew fans. I can do all that, but it really comes down to watching the show. We got all the masters from Saban almost right away, and I just started watching it one episode at a time. Before we can compile them onto 5 episodes a disc, or 8 episodes a disc, or 10 episodes a disc, I get each one on its individual disc. And by the time I got about episode 8, I was getting upset that I had to get up to put another one in because I just wanted it to keep going. And I didn't like that lag in between sitting down and getting up and putting in a new one. So yeah, I watched every episode of the 7 seasons that we've done so far, and from there, I then start going out to everything else I can find. I go to YouTube where people have put panels from Power Morphicon or a comic convention or whatever, and I just listen to every story I can get a hold of, so that it puts me in the mindset of a super fan, because I didn't grow up with the show. It was just as I was getting into other things, but I was always interested. I mean, I had friends who were big fans at the time, and so you go and you start to sort of immerse yourself in all the things that the superfans have been immersed in since sort of the internet has become huge, and anything you want is right there at your fingertips. And as a result, I became kind of a superfan. It's easy when you've got a show like this that's as fun as this to really get into it and to want to do good work.
Well, it's also amazing because you just had your panel, 20th anniversary of Power Rangers, so obviously the show has a long history and a legacy.
Yeah.
This is a show that people have been wanting on DVD for a long time. The only real, copies of Mighty Morphin up until recently were VHS.
Right.
Now we have Netflix as well, but this is the first time fans can own them on DVD.
Right.
Can you talk about the generational aspect that the show has?
It's amazing that in 19 seasons, or going into their 20th season next year, in 19 seasons, the show itself is fairly, I don't want to say formulaic, but it's a well-oiled machine. It's going to be 5 teenagers with attitude, brightly colored, fighting monsters, and yet they have managed to reinvent it from Zeo on, and they've managed to keep it really interesting, really exciting. They've managed to give you characters that you care about, and the brilliance of that is that regardless of whether you were a Mighty Morphin fan or a Lost Galaxy fan or Wild Force or Samurai, you grew up with some incarnation of Power Rangers. You got into Power Rangers and then you continued from there. And it became one of those things that you would rush home to watch, or on Saturday mornings at noon on Nickelodeon you would tune into. So they've managed to reinvent themselves in a way that I can't imagine many other franchises being able to do, and to be this successful. And I'm so glad that Saban Brands now has the show again, because I'm not sure that same love was going to be given to them by Disney when they owned it. And you just being here at the con, all the support of the other licensees, whether it's T-shirts, the toys, the Mega Bloks booth, the Bandai booth, everybody who has that relationship with Saban has suddenly become infected with the same enthusiasm that those guys are showing for it. And I think you can see that in the panel, the 20th anniversary panel that we did, where you have Ellie Deckles standing right there, and you're just hanging on every word, because he's not just some guy who's marketing a show. This is a guy who loves this franchise.
And everyone involved in the franchise itself, from the actors to the actual team. I mean, Tony Oliver being a part of the panel was a huge honor. Hearing the stories of really when they first understood what this series was going to be.
Yeah,
I think this was an opportunity for fans that we really haven't had outside of MORPHIN in the last couple of years.
Sure.
Is great, but I think it's a bigger picture because even Comic-Con, having that come and be a central piece of the big puzzle is huge.
Yeah, whenever you can go directly to the source, and I think the good thing, the reason Saban and Shout Factory are such a good marriage is we both embrace fandoms. There are other studios, there are other DVD labels that don't. They'll make an announcement when they're done. They'll be like, this is coming out now, this is coming out. Then, whatever, we're making all this stuff available to fans, but they haven't given fans an opportunity to give input. Saban is all about keeping up with fans, listening to their responses, making adjustments where they can in order to give everybody what they want. It's exactly what we do when we're doing the DVDs. And so when you've got an opportunity to get a panel together that puts these guys up there that talk about, look, we thought this was ridiculous. 20 years ago, the idea of doing this live-action action series, it's ridiculous. And now to hear that there was a pivotal moment where they realized this works, and this is actually great. And then not only that, but this isn't something that's going to last only 40 episodes. This is something that's going to go into 300 and some odd episodes, and then even more, and then even more. Listening to that kind of consciousness is pretty unbelievable. Because anyone else could have gotten bored, or could have felt like, we've gotten everything we need, or we'll make all the rest of our money in syndication. These guys don't want to live on syndication. They want to live on this season, and that season, and that season, and another 20 years could go by, and you'll have 40 seasons of Power Rangers, and they'll be just as unique and just as endearing as they were in the beginning.
It's really interesting too because Power Rangers really hasn't been syndicated. There's for years now, we haven't seen anything beyond the Disney, series of shows. We had a little bit back when Disney was trying to redo Mighty Morphin and re-release that, but there were a lot of fans up until recently that just didn't have access to it or didn't get to see the bigger picture. It's just Power Rangers, current season, and then move on.
Right.
So,
the idea that you can go back and see where it all began, whether it's via Netflix or the DVD sets, I think it's one of those things that you almost have to take advantage of. No matter where you started in the show, at this point you now need to go back and see where it all started, because I started with Day of the Dumpster and worked my way through, so I've got so much context. I mean, even though Lost Galaxy picks up, in the not too distant future, you still get throwbacks to these classic series, and you still get, where would Forever Red have made sense if you had not seen those seasons leading up to it? And the fact that they're willing to honor those previous seasons with special episodes like that, and make references to those old seasons. I'm glad that now people can go back and they can see everything, so they get the full context for the universe that is Power Rangers.
So you've personally seen all the way from Day of the Dumpster through the end of Lost Galaxy, having experienced that in a new time frame, really. What moments stand out to you from a new perspective, from a new set of eyes?
I have to say, I think the fandom has it right. They know exactly those memorable points. It's funny because you look at it now and you start to see things that are a little. It's sort of behind the scenes Hollywood magic, where you realize that the uniforms in Lost Galaxy, or the military uniforms are the same military armor and helmets and everything from like Starship Troopers. And you're like, okay, that's really cool, because you start to feel that. But then suddenly you're not thinking about that stuff anymore. You're now fully engaged in the series. The fact that Lost Galaxy had smart cars in 1997, and smart cars are only now catching on in 2012, you realize I'm Saban, and Saban, and Saban, these guys were well ahead of their time, going off and finding these things and throwing them in. And I will say that fans have it right. That Green Ranger, saga is really good. Although I've said it before, and I'll say it many times, I do prefer the White Ranger. And I especially like the goosebump sort of moment when you realize that Tommy is under that mask and under the mantle, because when you realize that that's the only guy who could fill those shoes, and then the other Rangers see it, it's a great moment, and it's the birth of a true leader of the group. Up to that point, you'd had Jason, but they worked as a team, sort of led by Zordon. And once that Right Ranger steps in, a Ranger with the inability to lose powers, the strongest of the group, Saba, it's a really powerful moment. I think it's probably my favorite moment in the show.
Something important that we talked about a couple days ago was gathering the content for the DVD, and how you had to actually go back and ask Disney for just miscellaneous tapes. You were trying to find one of your special features, the Misadventures of Bulk and Skull, and how you're trying to figure out for feature sets for Time Force because of the 9/11 cuts. Can you talk about that process a little bit?
Yeah, Saban's been completely open to us. Anyone who I've seen on some of the boards, they all jump to the conclusion that it's Saban or it's Disney or whomever that sort of took these things away, and they're going to keep them holed up in a cell somewhere forever. Nothing could be further from the truth. From day one, Saban has said, "What can we get you? And how soon do you need it? And let's do everything we can." I've seen as many as 7 separate masters for the Misadventures of Bulk and Skull. It wasn't until that 7th master that we knew we had the right one. And really what it comes down to is labeling. When the show has switched hands a couple of times, and sometimes tapes get lost in the shuffle, and sometimes things are labeled in a certain way and they get lost and evolved because they don't know to go looking in that corner and all that. But if something's available, they won't stop until we get a hold of it. Those Time Force Masters, from the moment fans jumped online and started saying you've got to get the pre-edited versions, we went to Saban. Saban was like, "What do we need to do to get you those pre-edited versions?" And we're in the process of looking for them now. I mean, it's not unreasonable to think that when we get there and we release those DVD sets, fans will get their pre-edits.
Great. Well, you guys just sold out of the box set here at Comic-Con. You talked a little bit about the upcoming box set for Zeo through Lost Galaxy. When are you going to start your next marathon for Beyond Lost Galaxy?
Hopefully soon. I don't have any plans yet. We're currently working on Ninja Turtles, VR Troopers, Beetleborgs, and then a myriad of other projects right now. But next year's the 20th anniversary. I know we'll want to come out with another big bang. There will be something. I can't imagine us not making something available to fans in 2013. What we make available and how quickly. I would like to do another set similar to this, 1 through 7. We've proven that we can do 40 discs now. Let's do another 40. Let's push the envelope, see what else we can do. But it's not really up to me. I'm just very much looking forward to when that comes down the pipe and I'm told, you've got the green light. Move forward.
Has anything really surprised you while actually making your special features? You got to speak with a lot of the cast and crew, and really after watching through everything and getting to hear some of these experiences, was there anything that just really stands out to you?
The readiness for people to talk about it. I mean, it's a 20-year-old series or franchise, and some people were only involved from this point to this point, or this point to this point, and yet anyone involved with the series, even in the panel, when someone asked the question, would you come back to do this? Would you come back to do that? Everyone's response is yes. Time permitting, availability, whatever. Everyone loves having been a part of this show. And so it's one of those things where as long as you can get contact information for people, and admittedly there are people that we still can't get a hold of, and I'm hoping to remedy that in August with Power MORPHIN. It's not hard to set up interviews with them. They all love talking about it, and I've worked on franchises where it's been like pulling teeth, and then I'm working on Power Rangers where, for the most part, it's just sort of like you tell me when and where, and I'll be there, and I'll say anything you want me to say, or I'll answer any question you want me to answer.
Nice.
So it's fun when you get a show that's got all those people willing to sit down and talk at great length about it.
Well, we're very excited to see what happens with the rest of the franchise and with what Shout Factory has coming out.
Cool.
So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.